What's up, everyone? Welcome to this edition of Over the Top Rope. I'm super excited about it. The man to my right, I think I got the point right, is Fodder. What is going on, my man?
What's going on? I gave you a smile, man. One thing I rarely do is smile. If you look at all my pictures, I'm one frowning individual.
And that'll be the kind of the perfect segue or piggyback off to one of the things I wanted to ask you about. Your gimmick, the psychotic boy and all that.
Yeah.
I absolutely love just that smug, stiff upper lip look that you have all the time. And is there any inspiration behind that, or you just wanted to look as just as intimidating as possible?
Yeah, so like originally so like I had met EC3 before I even ever started wrestling.
Hmm.
And before I started doing the wrestling thing, I was doing bodybuilding shows,
Hmm.
and me and him just kind of met on a chance type thing. So like my shoot gig is I've run bunch of different supplement brands,
Hmm.
and just so happened that during the time when he was working for WWE, he sent one of the brands that I run a DM and was asking about the supplement facts on one of the supplements. And it happened to be me on the other end of the DM running the brand. So I sent him a message. I was like, "Hey man, like, if you want the supplements or whatever," I was like, "Yo, just shoot me a message on my regular profile."
Hmm.
And then we kind of hooked up that way. And that was probably like a year before I even like started getting into wrestling, as far as like actually going to like wrestling school and all that.
Hmm.
And I'd say I'd been training maybe like 8 months, and he hit me up one day and he was like, "Hey man," he was like, "I got this." This was like right after he got released from WWE. And he said, "Hey man, like I got this thing going on down here." He was like, "And I need somebody to come essentially like fight me in this joint." And they were doing this, they were they were doing it on their own, but it ended up on Impact when he debuted over at Impact. So I show up, and we do this whole like cinematic wrestling, like garage fight type deal, where they got the ring in the garage and all that. And um, when they did the end credits on the piece, my name on there was the Fodder. And after that, it was just like when we did the narrative one, the first one that came out with him and Cardona and Seidel and Moose and all them. um, he was just like, "Why don't we just call you Fodder?" And I was like, "That sounds good to me." And we just kind of started rolling with it, and then kind of figuring out like, well, what makes sense for this character, because the character kind of morphed from like me fighting him, like in the garage, in the first one, to like basically like when he beats me in that piece, then I become part of his entourage, or like his right hand man, like basically
Hmm.
like his hitman. And after that, man, it kind of stuck. And we did the first narrative, we did the second narrative, with Adam.
Hmm.
And after that, a lot of people that were reaching out to book me, they wanted to book me as the character from the narrative. They're like, "Hey, like we want to book you, book Fodder." So
Yeah,
when we talked about it, I was just like, "I guess I'm just rolling with this thing now." And he was like, "That's it's good." He's like, "Just roll with it because it's working." And then we kind of added things to it, like the Psycho Boy and
hmm,
all of that type of stuff. And throughout the narrative, uh, I don't know if you want to call them films, or it's cinematic wrestling. I mean, like when we do the matches there, like we do the
hmm,
matches like a regular match. The only thing that's different is just like one of the cameramen is actually in the ring, which is what kind of gives you that viewpoint, where
hmm.
it's like a more like intimate viewpoint, if that makes sense, where you're kind of right there. Uh,
Absolutely.
so I mean, that's kind of how it got rolling, and it's just been rolling like that ever since, man.
And as some people, we were in Greensboro last weekend, and apparently AEW likes it too.
Yeah, they gave me a holler, and they invited me down to the Tapins, and we did the match with we did the 6-man tag with Dark
Mhm.
Order, which was a good match. I think everybody got their shit in, and it looked really good, and everybody seemed like they were very pleased with it. So I mean, the whole AEW thing is an experience in itself. I mean, everybody there was very welcoming. I mean, like all the guys, even if they didn't know you, everybody spoke to you. I mean, they treat you unbelievable there. I mean, it's great. I mean, I have nothing but great things to say about them.
How does that go down when they contact you? Or they just because they are in the area, you're in the area, and
Yeah.
they kind of shoot you a DM and it's like, hey, you want to come on Dark Elevation?
Yeah, I mean, well, they just popped me an email, and they just said, hey, like, we want to invite you to the Tapins, and you may or may not have a match. And then kind of when you get there, you just kind of go through the whole process, and if you have a match, they pair you off with guys, and you get everything kind of sorted out. And dude, like I said, I mean, I have nothing but great things to say about those guys. I mean, they've been giving me some opportunities, man, and I'm very grateful for that for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite things about AEW is what they do for the independent scene and independent wrestlers. Getting them in front of a much larger audience than pretty much anybody else can,
Right.
and even if it is just taking bumps in a minute and a half squash match, it's getting you guys out there. Is getting you that exposure, and in the independent scene, exposure is everything.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, like I say, man, like they treat you great, man. I mean, you get great promo pictures, and I mean, they feed you great, and I mean, it's a whole ordeal, man. And I mean, those guys are, they're top notch, man, with the way that they treat their talent, man, and talent that they bring in.
That's something I love to hear because as a fans, we can only speculate by what we see on TV and see on social media.
Right.
Wrestlers that may have worked at another promotion and they're much happier now. But talking to someone who's actually been in the midst of all that and hearing them just hearing you just confirm all that, that makes me like AEW even more.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I mean, like, I mean, honestly, man, like, being there, I mean, it was like, I mean, it was just such a good environment to be in. You know what I mean? Like, everybody was just everybody was very welcoming, man. From like, the guys, who came in with me, to the security guys, to producers, to top level talent, man. I mean, like everybody was like super nice, and like they don't have to be. You know, so I mean, I think that was like the biggest standout thing, aside from the fact that they're giving you an opportunity, to work and be on their program and be a representation of their program, and just all the things that they give you with that opportunity.
I think you said a really good sentence there. To kind of represent their program, represent their brand, because at the end of the day, they are kind of trusting you guys to also kind of uphold their image as well, and that's a side of it I don't think a lot of people look at.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And it's just like if you have a job anywhere, when you go out and you do something, or you tweet something, or you post a picture of something, like you are a representation of your employer too. And when you go out and people do crazy things, and they wonder why their employers get rid of them, I mean, the evidence is in itself, right? I mean, so anytime you go anywhere, you're if you go work for Ring of Honor, or you go work for WWE, or you go work for AEW, you're a representation of that company. And if you do something stupid, or you do something that's not becoming of what they represent, then by all means they have the right to get rid of you. And you should always, I think, be respectful of people that give you opportunities, and be respectful of their brand and their product, and the things that they represent too.
I don't think I could have said that any better myself. That's just like I love that. I love that coming from, independent wrestlers talking about the bigger promotions and the opportunities they give you. And that's kind of why I started, doing the interviews for the independent wrestlers is, you know, because I love independent wrestling and everything that, comes along with it. And I know there's a lot of politics behind the scenes and everything that the fans don't see. And, there's people that have real heat, there's real people that don't want to share a locker room together and all that. But, you know, if I can just get, independent wrestlers in front of just one more person that maybe hadn't heard of them, or one more person that wasn't following them and can follow them, that's what it's all about, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I mean, it's politics and everything, man. I mean, it's if you work at the local Food Lion, I mean, I'm sure there's politics, there with the bag boys and the cashiers and all that. I mean, that's just that's just human nature, I think, for there to be politics in things. Um, so, so I think that, like, when you approach anything, you should know that there's always politics involved, and how you conduct yourself, or how you represent yourself, should be probably to the best of your ability, and to the best of, I, I think the best way to put it is, like, represent yourself based on your morals, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, it makes sense, and I think if more people did that in the world, we'd be in a little bit better position in
Yeah,
where
yeah, no doubt, no doubt about that.
and
Absolutely.
just keeping along the lines of the bigger promotions and stuff like that. Is a goal of yours to be signed, or that's just not something you really think about too much?
Man, um I haven't given it a ton of thought. Like, I've made a good life for myself outside of wrestling. Um and like, wrestling is just something that I always wanted to do. And at this I think at the position that I'm at in life, is that, like, I'm just having a ton of fun. And it's so much, I think, like, when you're in a position in your life where, um you've already kind of made you've already kind of made something for yourself outside of that.
Hmm.
Then, like, there's not a you can have more fun because there's not so much pressure on you to, like, I gotta make it, if that make right. So, like, when you're like, man, like, I gotta make it to the NBA. If I don't make it to the NBA, my life is over, right? That's a lot of pressure that you have put on yourself. But when you're in a position where you're like, okay, like, I've created, like, X, Y, and Z. I really want to do this though. Um, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to have fun with this, and I'm going to see where this leads me. And I think, for me, that's worked out the best. Is, like, what a lot of people probably don't know is, when I was 16, I actually went to wrestling school when I was 16. And
Oh
they,
wow.
well, like, dude, like, growing up, all I wanted to do was be a professional wrestler. And at 16, my art teacher, I don't know if you remember, do you remember Laz from TNA?
Oh
He
yeah.
used to wear
Hmm.
the face paint and all that. So
Yep.
Laz was my art teacher
Oh,
in,
oh wow.
yeah, Laz was my art teacher in middle school. And Laz got me into professional wrestling school when I was 16. And I trained there until they found out that I wasn't 18, because I guess he had told him I was 18 years old. And when they told me I couldn't come back until I was 18, because, you know, there's obviously all kinds of legal issues if I got hurt or, you know, anything like that. Um, you know, I got off into doing other things and probably a whole lot of shit I shouldn't have been doing. And then I got into bodybuilding, which helped me develop the physique that I have now. And what's crazy is like, it's like all the things in my life sort of led me back to professional wrestling. But it's almost like it led me back there when the time was right. So if I would have done it when I was 16, maybe I would have never got into like bodybuilding or
Mhm.
developing my physique or anything like that. And like the path that like my life has kind of took me was like, this is something that I loved all my life, and I got away from it. And then I got into, you know, doing the bodybuilding and physique shows and all that, which, you know, allowed me to develop my physique to a point where then when I came back to do wrestling, like I had sort of like had my ducks in a row. Like I had like the look and I had the body, and, you know, all I needed to do at that point was get really good at wrestling. And then like if I got really good at wrestling, then, you know, I could possibly navigate my way to be able to make it to one of the big promotions, if I worked hard enough at it. And, you know, that's what I've been doing the last like 2 years, man. Is I have one of those personalities too, where if I can't, like, I'm not someone who could do something at 60%. So like I have to do it at like 100%, or I have to not do it at all. So like when I got involved with wrestling on a serious level, it was just like all in. Like I got to do this, and like I got to be like one of the best people doing this shit. So that's my mentality with it now. And, you know, of course, like meeting all the people that I've met along the way and all the help that I've got, you know, from so many of, you know, a lot of credit goes to EC3, man, because, you know, he introduced me to so many of the top level wrestlers
Mhm.
who helped me. You know, like, you know, he introduced me to Matt Seidel, and Matt Seidel invited me down, and I trained with Matt Seidel a ton, at his spot down in Clearwater, Florida.
Mhm.
And just the things, I think, like when you have those upper level guys put their hands on you and say, like, no, don't do it that way. You need to do it this way. Um, you start to learn and pick things up a lot quicker. And then,
Mhm.
like, when you're working guys, the more you're working guys, you start to get way better, way faster. And, you know, luckily for me, I had those guys to help me. You know, like, you know, Lodi is another person who helped me a
Mhm.
ton. You know, Eddie McCoy, who I train with in Fayetteville, helped me a ton. I mean, there's so many guys that have helped me. You know, it's hard to give credit to everybody because, like, I mean, there's just so many guys that have helped me along the way, you know.
It, that's like one of the like best stories that I've heard. Just having where you started, kind of in that almost kind of off the path thing, but then it all just comes back together.
Right.
And I love to believe that kind of stuff too. That almost like the butterfly effect that A leads to B, B leads to C, and then eventually you come back around to where you're supposed to be.
Right.
And having seen you in a very small independent setting with uh 40 people in the room, versus the Greensboro Coliseum, you can definitely tell that watching you wrestle. And you tell the story and you put it all out there, and you can definitely tell.
Thank you, man. I very much appreciate it. Which indie show did you see me at?
I saw you at the ALW. I guess
I worked the kid Rip Cannon.
it might have been. Yeah, I can't for the life of me remember who you were wrestling, but I remember.
It was a skinny dude though, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. He's really good. Like he hasn't been wrestling very long, but he's really good. Like he's actually some like I actually took him there. when I talked to the promoter, I was like, hey, like, I want to come do something with you guys. I was like, but like, I was like, I'd prefer to like bring my own guy with me the first time,
Hmm.
so I can kind of let you see what we can do. Rat, because sometimes like you'll show up somewhere and they'll like stick you with a guy who's like really bad or something, and
Yeah.
then like you're kind of like having to like wrestle down to their level, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you can't do everything that you're really good at doing because like the guy only knows like headlock takeover, right? So you're like trying to get a guy through 5 minutes, like with one move or something. And it was when we went there, yeah, there wasn't a lot of people there. I think there was like you said, like maybe like 30 or 40 people there.
Hmm.
But I mean, I remember that night, like we went hard that night, like in that
Yeah.
match. Like yeah, I remember that night. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't remember what it, and this kind of leads into another thing. Roxy the Broken Doll is saying, "Hey, what's going on, Roxy? Hope you're doing well."
How you doing,
Um,
Rox?
um, I I said something in just dead middle of a match about your jeans being too tight, and you turned around and clapped back, and I don't remember what you said, but I was just
Oh, was
like,
that you?
yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay, okay. I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
yeah, and
I
I was
remember
like,
you said
and I,
something, and then like when I started putting some more heat on him, I think I had him in like a chin lock, and I was like, "Tell me about them tight jeans now," something like that. It
yeah,
was
that's
something like that.
exactly what it was, and I immediately looked at my wife, and I was like, I'm a fan of Fodder now. That's all there is to it, because
Ah, that's great,
I,
man.
I always tend to go for the heels. Like you've got 99 people booing, and I'm that one person that's like, yeah.
Right, right, right. Yeah,
But
dude. I was working as a baby face at this one spot, and dude, I just hated working as a baby face. It just wasn't like, man, dude, it just wasn't me, man. Like like I was so over with that crowd there, where they run the shows, and um, it was the Ring War shows.
Mhm.
So I was so over with that crowd, and it was just like I just hated working as a babyface. Like I just wanted to tell him like shut up, and like I just wanted to like just talk shit to him. But I was so over as a babyface, and like, but the problem is like I was working as a babyface there, but everywhere else I was working as fodder because everybody's booking me as fodder from the narrative.
Yeah.
So like eventually, like I had told the guy who runs the shows there, I was like, look, dude, I was like, I can't do this the babyface shit anymore. I was like it doesn't make sense for me to work everywhere as a heel and come here as work as a babyface, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I just think too, man, like in the ring, I even move better, like as fodder, right? Because like I think that's more like it's more representation of me. Where it's just like it's just me, like black jeans, black boots, ass kicker, tattoos, like it's super simple. Like that's just who I am. And like for me to come out and like, you know, cheer up the crowd and I didn't want to do all that. I was just like, man, I just want to like come out here and like kick ass. So now, I work as fodder everywhere, and it's much better for me.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that I immediately liked about you is heels. There's heels that come out and they yell, you cheer for me or you shut up, or when the crowd starts getting behind their opponent, they're like, shut up. But you like work the crowd from beginning to end, and that's what I love about a heel is somebody who, mid match can look at the person in the front row and it's like, is this your boy now? Is this your boy now? And to me, I think that's something that's kind of not as common as maybe it was back in the day as somebody, working the crowd the entire time. And it's kind of harder to do it in the Greensboro Coliseum versus, an independent show with 40 people there. But that was one of the
Right.
things I loved about it.
Yeah, and I think like in the bigger crowd settings, like I try to I try to focus more on like berating the opponent,
Hmm.
um, and kind of let the mannerisms of the character, um, I try to let that get the heat with the crowd, because like the crowd, I've kind of learned like they don't like when you hit moves and then you just like stare them down. Like that irritates people. And like I do that a lot now, like everywhere I'm at. Like I like boom, like hit a move, and then like I might just stare at the crowd, or I might berate the opponent, or something along those lines, where you know I'm not overdoing it with the crowd, but I'm not underdoing it either. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes like when you're in a building somewhere, you kind of got to read the people a little bit and be like,
Yeah.
okay, these are people that want to jaw jack, and these are people that get irritated by like kind of shitty, arrogant behavior. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what fodder is, shitty, arrogant behavior.
Yeah. Like the psycho boy is just like, you know, I mean, black jeans, black boots, ass kicker, I'm just here to do the job. And it's like whatever it takes to get the job done, we're gonna do it.
Yeah, and I mean, you do it, in my opinion.
Thank you, man. I much
I
appreciated.
had a good Christmas. Did you have a good Christmas, fodder? Was it good?
Man, I did, dude. Dude, I mean, fuck, man. I couldn't have, the way this year's ended, I couldn't have asked for anything better, man.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, Dark Elevation, it's a pretty, and me and my wife were making our way to the seats, and we caught the last maybe few seconds of it, and we caught the combo or whatever,
Yeah.
and I was in heaven. I don't think you were, but I was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a eventful end for Fodder in that match.
Yeah, you kind of got the worst end of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it was great though. I mean, I posted that combo up on my I think I posted it up on my story. Um,
The evolution of the face.
yeah, yeah, there you go, man. Exactly, man. So yeah, I mean, it went well, man. I thought it looked great. And I mean, everybody seemed pretty pleased with it. So they're pleased with it. I'm pleased with it.
Yeah, and you were tagging with a guy who I recently met, and I'm just an absolute like mark for the Nightmare Factory. And you were tagging with J.R. Miller, who I've been in contact with a little bit, trying to work some stuff out with him. And I seen him wrestle at Firestar, and that mullet, man, that's like a national treasure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. What's funny is him and me went to. This was about a year ago. We went to a Tom Pritchard seminar together.
Hmm.
So when we ended up on the six man together, it's just kind of one of those things where like just things just kind of come around, they kind of come
Yeah.
full circle, and you're like, hey man, like like he walks in and I walk in, I'm like, hey, like what are you doing here? And he's like, man, what are you doing here? I mean, we hadn't seen each other in probably a year. I mean, I know he'd been working some shows and I've been working a bunch of shows, but we just hadn't crossed paths. And it was cool to see him, man, and it was cool to have the experience with him too, you know what I mean, because he's a good guy. And just to go from like where you've been wrestling for 6 months or a year, you know what I mean, and you're both like trying to get better, and you're going to seminars and you meet a guy, you know what I'm saying, and then you end up there with a guy with the same guy. I mean, it's pretty crazy stuff.
I think about the Spider-Man meme where all three Spider-Mans are pointing at each other.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Doing here?
yeah. That's kind of how it was too, man.
It was it, being on Dark Elevation, it is taped and everything. Is
Mm.
it a little different moving with, I guess, like TV time versus just like, an independent promotion?
I mean, I guess it kind of depends on like how strict the indie promotion is on time. Um,
That
you
makes
know,
sense. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, like some guys, man, like you go to some shows and you can just tell, man, they're just letting the guys go out there and go as long as they want, and you're like, yeah, man, like this is like a 5 match card, and you've been there for like 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Whereas like something like that, like they're telling you, hey, like this is the time, and you know, you need to hit your times. I mean, that's just part of the job, and you know, it's you know, when they bring you in, they bring you in to do a job. So you know, I mean, you got to make sure that you get things done, man. So I think it's you know, it's not too much different. You know, it just depends on like the promotion. But like, you know,
Mhm.
I'm a guy, man, too, man, that like I'm not a huge fan of like matches that are over like 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, even 15 minutes can be a stretch sometimes. Like I think like that 8 to 10, you know, and then maybe add on the entrances. So maybe we're talking like 12, 13 altogether. You
Yeah.
know, unless it's like you know, a huge match or something like that, right? Like I
Yeah.
think most matches, man, you can tell that story, and um, you can you can tell that story and you can make it all make sense. Um, you know, within 10 to 15 minutes, man. I mean, you know, some matches. I mean, like if you go back and you watch like a lot of like WCW Saturday Night, which I watch
Mhm.
a ton of it, WCW Nitro, you know, 94, 95, 96 WWF, like pretty much all the matches, dude, unless they were at a pay-per-view, I mean, all the matches were going 8, 7, 6, you know
Yep.
what I mean?
Yep.
Somewhere
Exactly.
in that area. And you know, they're long enough to get the job done, but they're the time duration is also in a spot where it doesn't lose the viewer, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense because, in like doing these interviews and stuff like that, people that go back and watch them, you know, somewhere around, that 20, 30 minute mark, you can tell the views kind of start going down. And, the world of online content, TikTok spoiled everybody. They want 2 minute videos anyway.
Yeah, like 2 second videos, shit, man. I mean, it's
Yeah.
insane, man. Yeah, and two, man, like I'm sure you've seen this, but like there's nothing worse than like you know like the indie match that goes 25 minutes that's got 8 false finishes, and you're like, whoa, like this has gone way too long, you know. And if you watch any of my stuff, like if you watch any of my stuff from like Extreme World Wrestling, if you watch any of my stuff from like Ring Wars or wherever I'm working at,
Hmm.
I try to keep all the matches in that time frame, 8 to 10, maybe 12. But it's like I say, it's in a time duration where you won't lose the viewer, but you can still get the job done as far as telling the story. I mean, dude, me and Ricky Morton worked a match week, not last week, but the week before that. I think on the 19th we worked a
Yep.
match, so like 10 days ago, and the match went 5 minutes, 6 minutes. I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Um, it was on the Fight TV pay-per-view. Um, but it did the job,
Yeah.
right? So it's like the story that we were trying to tell in that match, and I won't spoil it for you, but like the story that we were trying to tell in that match, it didn't have to go 20 minutes for us to tell that story. We could tell that story in 6 minutes, you know, and I don't have to put 10 minutes of heat on him to tell that story, right? I
Yeah.
put a
Yep.
little heat on him and fucking boom, we're fucking rocking and rolling, right? So
Yep.
I think too, it's just figuring out what you're doing and how long that needs to go.
Yeah, and as just like a strictly a spectator, a fan, I agree with you 100%. And I've been to matches where it's like 17 pinfalls in like 18 minutes, and then kind of once you get towards the end, you're like, yep, this is it, one, two, kick out, and you're just like, oh. But I've also been to matches where there's been 17 pins in 18 minutes, and by like the 15th one, you're just like, come
Yeah.
on.
You're like, man, when's this gonna end? Like this should have
Yeah.
ended 10 pins ago. Yeah, yeah. a hundred
Yeah,
percent.
I was at a I was at an event. I guess it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago now, and there was a TV brought out as a weapon, and the crowd didn't react at all. And I'm just like, is the crowd not into it? Are they not telling the story? Like, is this being lost? Is it not coming across? And I just, and it wasn't a long match. It just, I don't know that the story was getting across.
Right, right, right. Yeah, and I mean that happens sometimes. I mean, sometimes you get wacky crowds, and I mean, you just never know. Um, but I'm definitely of the mindset that 10 minutes is where it's at. Like most of the time, if you're working, I think when the crowd starts to get with it, like when they start to get behind the baby face, they're telling you time to end this. Time to end. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's like your cue when they start getting behind it, like, okay, man, like time to rock and roll. Right. So
Yeah.
like you might be in it 4 minutes and they're already calling for it. Just roll with it.
Your
You
cue,
know,
huh?
yeah, I mean, just roll with it. I mean, sometimes it's okay to cut it down. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no like set time duration on this thing. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, man, like you got to go 20 minutes. Like, no, I mean, you don't got to go 20. I mean, maybe you go fucking maybe you go 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's okay too, right? I mean, like, it just depends on if you're just telling that story and it makes sense.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. Patty wants to see it. Patty's a good friend of mine. She's supported me in chasing the graph since the day I started it, pretty much. And she's saying she would love to see that match as well.
The Ricky Morton match, is that the one
Yeah.
she's talking about?
Yep.
Yeah, I'll make sure. I'll make sure I get it over to you so
Yeah.
you can.
And I'll pass it along for sure.
That'll be
And
it's a good fun little match for sure.
yeah, I'm a fan of short anything. There's a tag team with the Nightmare Factory. They do a vlog every week of just them traveling and all that. And
Uh-huh.
it's my favorites because it's only like usually between like 8 and like 15 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
And I don't want to watch a 4 hour vlog of somebody going to Wendy's and going to Walmart or something.
Right. Right. 100%. Yeah,
And
for sure.
I guess we'll round it out with talking about control your narrative. I think that's a pretty good way to round it out and finish it off is to tell people about that might not know about that.
Yeah, man. You can go to our new website, which is controlyournarrative.co. And it has pretty much everything control your narrative related on there. You can also visit our control your narrative. I'm actually trying to make sure I got the link right here. I should know because I run all this shit. Um, it's let me go here. It's if you go to youtube.com/control your narrative,
Hmm.
that's the YouTube channel, man. When you go on there, man, there's tons of stuff on there. I mean, you can watch Free the Narrative 1 for free, the full feature. You can watch Free the Narrative 2 for free, the full feature. Both films, feature guys like Matt Cardona, EC3, John Schuyler, Moose, Perro, Jake Logan, Weston Blake, Adam Shear, Matt Taven. I mean, there's tons of guys in it. Matt Seidel's in it. So, I mean, you can watch the single matches, you can watch the promos. We actually have the Control Your Narrative podcast out now. So, weekly podcast, a video podcast. Every week they're interviewing someone different. I mean, they just had Doug from Ring of Honor on there, Vincent
Hmm.
from Ring of Honor, Matt Taven. One of my interviews is on there. Marina, I have some problems with her last name sometimes. Marina Shafir.
Who you're talking about? Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
from
even think I can
NXT.
get that about it.
Yeah, she had an episode on there. And I mean, there's just so much stuff. I mean, we're doing workout videos now. where we're kind of going through, training and leg
Mhm.
training and, just different things, man. Just trying to beef it up and do something different. Uh,
That's what I
so
love about it. That's
yeah,
what I
and
love
then
about it is something different.
we have we have the third one that we're getting ready to shoot.
Ooh,
So we're gonna have some pretty big name guys in there. I'm not sure what the date is that we're shooting it, but we are shooting it early in the year next year. So it may be late January, early February. We're gonna shoot it. It'll
okay.
probably take a little time to edit it. So I'm thinking like maybe like March, April, the third one will be out. And that'll probably be the third one to kind of wrap the series a little bit.
Mhm.
And then we're in some talks with some people about doing a sort of Netflix type thing,
Got
where it would be like a 10 episode type deal, where like the 10th episode would be like the finale
Mhm.
to it. So we're in the process of doing that stuff now. And then, I got more stuff coming up in terms of the wrestling. If you are in the North Carolina area and you are looking to come to a show, these might be some shows that you might be interested in coming in. Me and Weston Blake are
I was
gonna,
gonna bring that up. Yeah,
yeah,
I think that's gonna be a banger.
yeah. Me and him are we. So we actually have when we filmed the second narrative,
Mhm.
we filmed all of that on Sunday, and then Monday we came back and we shot like a bunch of like extra content matches.
Mhm.
So like me and Weston Blake have a match already that we shot at the narrative. That was, I mean, it was just a fantastic match. So that match may come out before the 15th if I can pry it out of somebody to do it, because I'd actually prefer that that match come out. Um, like me
Makes
and him
sense. Yeah.
facing off in the narrative before we actually do the live joint that we're going to do. So me and Weston Blake are going to main event the January 15th show at Ring Wars.
Mhm.
And then this hasn't been announced yet, but I'm just going to put it out there. Me and Moose are going head to head on February 5th at the show called The New Style, which is going to be in Lumberton, North Carolina. Me
Wow.
and Josh Woods from Ring of Honor are going to be wrestling on February 19th in the main event at that show. The next day, we're going to be wrestling. Well, I'll be at the Firestar Pro Wrestling show on the 20th, um, doing a joint there. And I'm not sure. Are you familiar with Vincent from Ring of Honor? Righteous
Oh yeah.
Vincent?
Oh yeah. Mhm.
Me and Vincent are wrestling on March 5th. And then I'll say this on March 12th in Raleigh, North Carolina, I'll be wrestling let's just say, a just released wrestler from WWE. So it'd be a big name guy that everybody knows. And then in between those, I'm doing a lot of the XWW, the Extreme World Wrestling. So like the Casino Night shows,
Yeah.
uh, their Extreme Warfare shows, and their Fight TV pay per views. So they've supported me a ton too. So it's just busy, man. Busy, busy
That
time.
that's absolutely stacked, man. That is just like, it just keeps, you know what I'm saying, just one
It's
right
man,
after
it's
another.
all I told my buddy the other day. I said, man, it's just all happening kind of fast, and you just kind of, you know, got to make sure you stay level headed and keep your wits about you and keep yourself humble and, make sure you don't get ahead of yourself. You know what I mean? That happens to a lot of
Yeah.
people. And I think one thing for me is just trying to make sure that as much as some of these top level guys have helped me, that I stay humble and make sure I do the same for others.
Yeah, I can definitely, get that vibe from you. And because as a heel's job, you're almost kind of have to make other people look good. That's kind of part of what a heel does, is make
Right,
the
right.
baby look even better. So it
Yeah.
definitely comes across. I can definitely tell.
Well, my buddy's father, he saw me backstage at a show and he said, "Hey man," he said, he said, "I know you work that fucking shitbag gimmick, man." He's like, "But it's so hard for me to take it serious because I know you're such a nice dude." I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, don't tell anybody that though. Let them think I'm an asshole.
Yeah, I'll try to, well, I mean, life is a work. What can you say? So,
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, exactly.
and tell everybody where they can follow you on social media, because I feel sorry for anyone who didn't tune in to this and didn't get all those little gold nuggets, and just all, like, from, 2 seconds in till now. This is, I hate to even say it because I've done so many that I've loved, but this has been one of the funnest ones I've done, and I feel
Thank you.
sorry for anybody who didn't tune in and didn't get little bits of information that may or may not be released yet. So tell everybody where they can follow you on
Well,
social
hopefully
media.
you'll have the replay like up on like YouTube and all that.
Yeah, it once this ends, it'll be on YouTube forever. And
Okay,
usually
perfect.
when I
Yeah,
do this, um, like tomorrow, I'll post a link to the interview,
yeah.
and that people follow the link and go to it that way. And then a couple of days later, I take like a minute clip of, like, what in my opinion, is the best part, and then I post that 1 minute clip so that way people can be like, "Oh shit, that was cool as hell! Like, let me find that YouTube. Like, let me
Yeah,
find that
yeah,
video."
for sure, for sure. And I'll definitely support you and make sure we get that stuff shared out and all that, man. As far as the social media stuff goes, um, you know, visit us at controlyournarrative.co. Hit the YouTube and subscribe. YouTube.com/controlyournarrative. You can follow me on social media. All of my stuff is the same. It's at LOKEYS910 or /LOKEYS910. And I'm pretty receptive to anybody hitting me up unless you're asking me for cock pics or pics of my feet. Other than that, I'm good. I'm pretty responsive.
Oh man, the DMs are sorta open.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, as long as you're not asking for like feet pics or cock pics, like we're good. So
Oh my god, that's great.
yeah,
And
there's a lot of there's a lot of strange people out there, man.
I was about to say, I'm not even gonna ask how much that happens, because I'm sure it's far more than I even realize.
Dude, listen, man. I tell like you would have people they say like, man, dude, I'm sure it's like females like hitting you up all the time. Like, nah, man, it's like people asking for a whole lot of weird stuff. You know, and it's like I'm
Yeah,
just like
and that,
swiping and deleting, man.
oh my god, yeah, and that's like even me, man. I feel weird, like, reaching out to people for interviews, because I've had people that have been on reality shows message me back, and they're like, "Oh well, I'm only going to talk about this and this, and it's not going to be a good interview. I don't know what you want from me." And I was like, a simple no would have been, And then I've
Right,
had
right.
people, ignore, not respond, or respond and say, "I don't have time for somebody with 2,000 followers," or something like that. So I can't
Yeah,
even
but
imagine
you know
what your
what, dude?
DMs
You're
are like.
doing it. You're doing it the right way because, like, when you hit me up, like, you emailed me and you asked me about doing the interview, right? So, like, it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't anything that made me go like, oh, I'm never doing that or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, like, it was like super professional. So, I encourage anybody to do an interview with you because it's been great.
Well, I definitely appreciate that, because and I hate to say it too, but I've been like left on red by people that only somebody who knew them would know who they are, kind of a thing, and like just been ignored completely. And I'm just like, just like, I'm a grown ass man. If somebody says no to an interview, I'm not gonna cry myself to sleep. Just like, I would prefer somebody message me back and be like, "You don't have enough of a following for me to, entertain the idea. And I'm cool with that. I'm a grown man, that's they don't owe me anything. That's perfectly,
Right.
fine on their part, but you know, it is what it is. And always like 10 times more appreciative of the people that do it because this is something I love doing. This is something I find fun. And, I kind of depend on you guys to do it. So when you guys do agree to it, like, I'll support you guys in any way I can. Like, if a wrestler I've interviewed, like, shot me a message and like, hey, man, I don't have gas to get to this gig. Can I borrow $10? I'd fucking give it to him.
Right, right, for sure, man, for sure. And I mean, it's just I think it's more like you can kind of tell like what type of people you vibe with and stuff. So dude, I'm super easygoing, man. So like if somebody reaches out to me and like, hey man, like can you like do this for me, or like could you help me with this or whatever, I'm just like, most of the time I'm just like, yeah man, because like one thing I learned, man, is most people are willing to help you. It's the simple fact that most people never ask. So they just automatically assume that the person's going to say no. And it's like, they might say no, but you don't know until you ask. So, I mean, what's the harm in asking, right?
You're 1000% right. And that's my strategy for, trying to get interviews is I use the old Michael Scott. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah, 100%. There's a thing before we jump off. There's a clip that I would recommend everybody to go watch, and it's a very old Steve Jobs interview, and it's only like 2 minutes long. If you look it up on YouTube, it's called Steve Jobs Secrets of Life, and it's about a minute and 43 seconds. If you watch that, it will help change your life. It'll help change your perspective on everything, and it will make you think outside of the box. Um, so I encourage everybody to go check that out.
Yeah, I'm literally it's only a minute. I'm gonna go watch it as soon as we jump off.
Yeah, most definitely, dude. It's great, man.
But that's gonna do it, man. I absolutely appreciate you taking the time. Everybody follow him at low key 910 LOKEYS 910 and catch him at a show. Say what's up.
For sure. Thanks for having me, bro.
All right, man. Everyone that watched, I definitely appreciate it. And I hope you guys have a good and happy New Year's.